Hi guys, this is Dormouse03, and this is The Evil Within, AKUMU difficulty, Chapter 10. So this chapter is rather long, and has some, I would say, very difficult parts to it. I don't know that I would call these sections more difficult than anything that you've done thus far, because the fights in Chapter 6 were also very difficult. So, you know, I think this is just similar level of difficulty to Chapter 6, I would say. But the difference is the checkpoints in this chapter are much better. So when you spawn into fights, you generally don't immediately die. So that's a good thing. But there are a couple of boss fights in this chapter toward the end. But we have to get there first. So the rooms leading up to the boss fights are also pretty tricky, I think, to get just right. And when I say that, I mean that they're pretty tricky to get just right, doing them a little bit stealthily. So, the first real room here I'm going to try to do as stealthy as I can, which, you know, is actually works out pretty well. You can take this upcoming area a little bit more quickly. If you want to. It just might involve using a few more resources, which by this point you should have a pretty good stock of them, because I haven't been using any of the ammunition and stuff in any of these lockers. I've only been picking up the green gel to upgrade, and so you should have a pretty good stock of stuff, even if you don't, you know, if you aren't full up on ammo and bolts and stuff by the time you get here. You should have a good amount of stuff to be able to pick up from the lockers. So, you know, feel free to do this section a little bit more loudly and messily than I do, if, you know, that's what it takes to get you through it. I just wanted to try to show you the cleanest, you know, possible run that I could get through this level. So, at least for this first section, because I feel like the first section is really a place where you can do some stealth, and I enjoyed that aspect of the game, and so I tried to do it as much as I could. The second section, I feel like you probably can use some stealth, but it will probably be a little bit harder to do that. Even on Survivor, I could never really figure how to do that second area stealthy, so we will see that when we get there, but first we have to get through this room. So when you go into this room on the left, there is a statue behind these boxes. Now, there was a trap that I disarmed before coming into this room, so just be careful and be aware of that. If you trigger that trap, you will not be able to get into this room, and so you'll need to reload your save from where you most likely saved in the save room just a second ago. So no great loss if you accidentally set that off, because you can reload to right back where you probably just saved. There was a mannequin that I destroyed for no purpose, because, you know, mannequins don't ever actually give you stuff. But they're fun to punch and make fall apart, so at least there's that. And when you head out into this area, you get your checkpoint, and here is the crossfade, because it took a few tries to get this area kind of down. So the first thing I do is run over and to disarm the bear trap to the left, and then I turn off my lamp and try to, you know, sneak up on this enemy with a torch right here. And if you're moving quickly, you can get him before he turns around. If you're not moving as quickly, you can kind of hang out there behind the wall and wait for him to turn around and go toward the wall that I just jumped over right then. And you can get him walking toward that. And then when you go through here, it's going to automatically, the sniper is going to fire. And you want to kind of stay away from these windows if you can, because the sniper can shoot you through them. So try to just be aware of that. And so I used the torch on the first guy, picked up his hatchet, and then used that to kill the second lady. And now I'm going to take out this sniper. So be aware that he needs to shoot out the glass, or you will waste a bullet shooting out the glass, I believe. But there is the shot. And just take your time there, because you don't want to be popping your head out where the sniper can see you. So if you move kind of quickly and get up against that wall, the enemies won't see you coming up. If you start crouching like right after you get off the ladder, you won't get there quickly enough. And so you need to be aware of that, that you need to kind of walk toward the wall and then crouch when you get maybe halfway there. And then I'm just waiting on these two people's patterns to kind of line up, because sometimes they get a little bit out of sync, and so you have to wait a little bit so that they both turn around at about the same time. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have enough time to kill the one and get back into position before the other one turns around. So there they are. They got in synchronization, and we were able to come up and kill this dude with the axe in his face. It would be fun if you could pull that axe out and use it. But it is a random skin, so sometimes the big guys will be dressed differently. And then just wait at the corner for this guy, who apparently doesn't notice that his buddy is dead, over to his right. He's just like, I don't know what's going on. Gonna wait, turn around, do my pattern. And then he gets stabbed in the back of the head. And then there's a guy here to the left who will get up, so you want to burn him before he has the opportunity to do that. Be careful of the trap there, because we haven't disarmed that yet. And I'm going to wait until after the checkpoint to do that. Here's another guy who will get up, so burn him. And then there's another sniper that we want to take care of. And doing all of that before the checkpoint means that you don't have to do all of that if you fail after the checkpoint, which is a very good thing. So there's the headshot on that guy. And now you don't have to worry about those two snipers being a problem for you, and you can kind of pick up stuff in this area and move on to the checkpoint in the back of the room here. There will be a battery thing that you pick up, and when you touch that, that will trigger the checkpoint. There we go. Battery pack. There's your checkpoint. And now we're going to be moving on to the second half of this little circus room. And I really like this area. I think the layout is pretty cool. I like the music. I just like the whole feel of it. It just feels very horror. And the guys with the masks, I don't know. It's just got a good ambiance to it. I like it. And it's pretty different from the areas that you've seen before. There's a guy right around that corner with a hatchet, so be careful of him. Have your whatever weapon you choose to use ready. I chose the harpoons because I know that there are going to be some harpoon bolts in the next room that we're going to go to, so I can restock that. There's a bear trap right here. There are so many traps on this area as well. There are more than there were in Survivor, I believe. So if you come up a little bit, you're going to trigger those two guys. And what I do is I head back to the door so that I don't have to worry about getting randomly decapitated. And so these guys, if you get lucky enough, they will kill themselves like that. Like, it'll be timed such that it hits them as they're climbing. Sometimes they don't get it at just the right time. So if it doesn't kill them when they're trying to jump over the wall and they actually make it over the wall, if you shoot them with the pistol right before the whatever that is, the spinner comes around, that will make them stand up, and that will allow that to kill them. So we're gonna disarm a bunch of the traps around here because I don't want to be worried about doing that when I'm trying to get out of this area. And this one right here is really hard to see. I definitely got blown up by that once. So there's all your traps disarmed, and just gonna move into this next room where you have a couple more guys to contend with. So you want to stay to the right here because there's going to be a guy who's walking to your left, and you just want to wait for him to turn around just like that. Sneak behind him, knife in the back of the head. Then there's another guy who's around this corner, and he patrols out a little bit, so he's got his back to us right now, but he's going to move, so you want to make sure that he's at the end of his pattern where you'll have some time to walk up on him. So he's got his back turned. Sebastian just won't like stand how I want him to right now, and it's very frustrating how he like backs up sometimes, and it's like, Sebastian, please. But it was okay. We did our little crouchy dance, and he turned around and we're able to stab him. There is another guy who's on the floor who you want to make sure you're still sneaking so that he won't get up before you can burn him. And then we're going to loot the stuff in this room and replace the battery pack into this area right here, and that will open the door to this area so that we can get out and move on to the next section. So you can disarm that trap if you want to. That was one that I chose to leave because I didn't have a checkpoint, and you know, doing any of these parts that cleanly is not as easy as it seems. Because it's very easy to get messed up with some of the randomness, like the guys not getting killed by the spinner when you want them to, or I don't know, just turning around when you don't expect them to, and random things like that. You know, stuff goes wrong. It's easy to mess up sections like that where timing is really important, and having to go back and do a whole section like that just because of a trap is kind of irritating, so I chose not to do it. There is map fragment number 18, and we're going to head down into the next section of this chapter. So there is a trauma. You want to kind of wait a bit after you see him turn up, because you don't want to get down this ladder too quickly or else he'll still be in the room there, and that's no good. So instead of just sort of falling down the ladder like I normally do, I went ahead and just climbed down normally, just because I didn't want to be in the room with this trauma, because there's no need to have that to mess with. Because the traumas take a pounding, and since he sort of disappears, there's really no reason to kill him there. And I wonder, now that I'm looking at this and talking about it, there are two traumas in the last room of this, in the last part of this particular section, and I wonder if you kill that one at the beginning, if there will only be one that shows up at the end. So that might be something that I have to try on my playthrough that I'm doing right now. My no upgrade run, because what chapter am I on? I think I'm on chapter 10 actually on that playthrough, so I'll have to try that and see what happens. So this part right here, it really feels like you should be able to stealth it, but I don't know. Their pattern is just such that it feels like you kind of can't. And this hoodie guy, or cloak guy, or Ruvik clone, or fake Ruvik, or whatever he is, he just seems to know that you're there. Like, how did he know I was there? I don't understand it. But I'm prepared for him, and how I'm going to deal with him is a harpoon and a match. So that was it was not the best. But I wanted to get him dead, and that was the priority, and I risked death a little bit by running past some of these enemies. So you can definitely do this a little bit cleaner. The idea that I was trying to do, and I got a little distracted from it because my harpoon did something funny, like it hit the Ruvik guy, which is what I wanted it to do, but he wasn't in the front, and so I ended up putting myself in a dangerous situation because of that, but it ended up working out. But that's what I wanted to do initially, was to herd them all into that doorway and knock them down and use a match to burn multiple ones at the same time. And the reason I used the harpoon on the fake Ruvik guy is because that will knock him down, and I think it's pretty much a guaranteed that you're going to knock him down. Here's a statue. Shoot it before you go in there to get it, and go as quickly as you can and get out of there, because that thing will fall down, and if you aren't moving pretty swiftly underneath there, you will get squished. But you do have time to pick up both the key and the upgrade gel, so let that be known. This lady didn't get up before when I was running through, so she gets a match. And I'm just going to go through here and pick up some things and disarm some traps and make it to the next battery pack that you have to pick up. Again, you can disarm these traps in here if you want the trap parts. I chose not to do it because getting all of those enemies dead is not super easy. So, didn't want to have to do it again. And I just said, you know, I can live without these trap parts. But yeah, I think the harpoon bolt does guarantee you a knockdown on the Ruvik guy. But, you know, if you use a shotgun, it seems like that should work too. But sometimes it doesn't. So that's why I used the harpoon bolt on that particular enemy at that particular moment. Because I wanted to make sure that I knocked him down. Because if he gets off his attack, it's very annoying. So, whenever you see those guys, do whatever you can to get them taken out. Now, another strategy that you could have used there would be to use a freeze bolt. So when they opened the door, you could have used a freeze bolt on all of those guys that were standing in the door, and that would have killed them and the Ruvik guy. So, that's just another thing that you could use. The freeze bolt is a guaranteed kill on that guy as well. So, the harpoons to me are less expensive than the freeze bolts. But then again, I had to use several shotgun shells to knock those guys down. And I used several more than I really should have had to, because I kind of failed to get them lined up the way I wanted them to initially, and kind of messed around trying to get them back into position. But it didn't go too badly after all. And so we're going to move into the next checkpoint, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video. So thanks for watching. I'll see you there.